Hey guys, it's Barbie with Two Friends and a Bible. And as you can see, I'm by myself today. I'm missing my co-partner Flora, but this is going to just be my personal testimony on my cancer journey. Not everything, but my cancer journey. And Flora is actually going to be doing her testimony as well when she's ready. She has a really good testimony. She really does. She has an incredible testimony. So y'all are going to enjoy that when she's ready to do that. So anyway, we're going to get started. And I really should have typed up some notes and stuff, but I've been saying since September, I'm going to do this, and I just haven't done it. So I just decided I'm going to get on here and try to do this with memory. I've got some pictures to show. Um, all my pictures are fine. There's nothing wrong with them, except there is one that does have a little bit of, it's after one of my surgeries, and it does have a little, it's not bad, but it does have a little goo in it. So, but not bad, but I just wanted to tell you. So, in case that triggers someone, you'll know not to, look at that. And I'll give a warning before I put it up. All right. So like I said, I'm going to try to do this by memory. So I'm praying Holy Spirit will help me through this. And if anybody, some reason I just feel somebody needs to hear this. Maybe someone's going through something, and no, being diagnosed with something it's no different than anyone else being diagnosed with something else. In other words, what I'm saying is I only know a cancer diagnosis because that's all I have. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. But I'm not in no way saying that anyone else's disabilities or anything like that is lesser. So I hope nobody thinks that. But I don't know, maybe someone can get a blessing out of this and it'll help you through some hard times. Okay, so I am going to start with my first diagnosis, which was in May of 2009. Now, I know that many of you have heard me, probably if you've watched our videos, you've heard me mention that I used to go get my cards read by a psychic, and I don't recommend doing that. This was back in a time when I just was not following the word. I wasn't in the word. I wasn't doing anything. So I was seeing a psychic, and I guess I started seeing him probably around 2007. Now, when I was first invited to go see this psychic from some friends, I was like, oh, no, 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 I don't do that. I don't want to do that. Well, I ended up going to a girls' night, and this girls' night was we just a bunch of girls got together and we had some cheese. We did one of those boards with the cheese and the crackers and all that yum stuff and some wine, and we just kicked back and had girls' night. Well, they invited this particular psychic that night, and everybody was getting their cards read. So I was like, okay, let me get mine. Well, yeah, he blew my mind because he knew things about me that nobody knew. And it was my first experience doing that, and my experience that I should have never did because it tied me into getting further and further. And I mentioned this because what happened was my mom passed away in July 2008 from ovarian cancer. Now, the interesting thing about her is she did not have ovaries. She had had them removed about 10 years prior to being diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So by the time they found it, it was pretty far gone because they never imagined she had it. And even though she had had her ovaries removed, you still have a small percentage of like about 5% chance that you can get that because you still have those pockets. And they called it peritoneal ovarian cancer because her entire wall was covered. She survived 3.5 years, chemo every 2 weeks for 3.5 years. It was pretty rough. And she ultimately passed away at 65 years old. And that was in 2008. Well, I was seeing the psychic at this point and all that. So after she passed away, my sister, she's a nurse practitioner, and she was like, I know you're only 41 at that time, and you're not even supposed to get mammograms and different things like that until you are like 45 or something at that point in time. She said, but I would see if your doctor might go ahead and start doing those because ovarian cancer and breast cancer are sister cancers. And she said, I would also maybe ask your doctor to run a CA 125 test, which is an ovarian cancer test, just to make sure your numbers are okay. And, just to keep an eye on it, since we now apparently have this in our family. Never had anything like this. Nobody had ever had anything. All my aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody was still healthy and alive, and everything was great. Even my grandmothers, lived to be 93 and never had anything like that, never had this. And so she's like, now that we know we have something, we probably need to keep an eye on it. So in that October 2008, I went and saw my doctor. We did a mammogram. We did the 125 test. Everything was great. October 31st of that year, um, I got the results back and everything was good. See you in a year. They decided to start doing mine yearly because of the history. And so they said, see you in a year, everything's great. And this was on October 31st. Well, that same day, I went to my friend's house who was having a Halloween party. And yes, I know, y'all just remember all this is my past. I don't celebrate these things anymore. Okay, so just remember these were all my past. And I went to the Halloween party, and our psychic friend was there, and he was reading cards on Halloween while we had a party. Well, as soon as he walked in the door, before he even read cards, did anything, he looked at me and he said, you got something wrong with your right breast. You need to go to the doctor and get it checked. And I was like, what? I said, I'm literally just got my letter today saying my mammogram's fine. There's nothing wrong. He said, I'm just telling you something's wrong. You need to go see the doctor. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? Go to the doctor and say my psychic said? So of course I didn't do it. And so we went on, life went on. And February 2009, I saw him again because we were getting our cards read about every 3 months. And I saw him again. Well, he looked at me and he says, you didn't go get that check, did you? And I said, well, no. I mean, what am I supposed to tell him? My psychic said, he said, I don't care what you tell him, but you need to go get it checked. And of course, I just blew that off. Well, at that point in time, I was working in the legal field. I worked for some attorneys in Atlanta, and I was paralegal, and went to school and all that for that. And I was working as paralegal, and part-time, I worked in a domestic violence shelter. And the way that I did this was every other weekend, I would go to the shelter, and I spent the weekend there, Friday night to Sunday night. And I had my own apartment and whatever, and I did intakes. I brought people in who were trying to get away from their abusers, took crisis calls, worked with the people that we usually had about 20 people there, 20 women and some men, children, all that there. We were also working with a little bit of the trafficking victims as well. And so I was having a lot of pain in my breast, and I'm sorry for men if you hear this all, but I was having pain. And it was like, what in the world is that? And it got worse and worse and worse. And I finally took some ibuprofen because it just was that bad. And it was on both of them. And so took the ibuprofen worked and helped, but as soon as it wore off, it was back. And so I ended up just going, ugh, what is that? Well, when I did, I put my thumb right on a 2.5 centimeter tumor in my right breast. Now, this was only 7 months after my mammogram that was normal. So, ladies, do not stop getting mammograms just because mine did not work out right. Do not stop getting your mammograms. But mine, just for whatever reason, they didn't pick it up. I don't know what happened. But anyway, there was 2.5 centimeter tumor. And of course, the first thing that went into my mind was, oh my gosh, the psychic, his name was James, said this. And, I wasn't following the Lord at that time. I wasn't I wasn't doing anything except what I wanted to do. You know, my kids were getting older, they were getting out of the house. I had time to be me. I got married when I was 18, had my daughter at 22 and my son at 26. And so they were getting older, and my daughter had already gone off. My son was still at home, but he was always going off with friends and whatnot. So I finally was having some me time. And so anyway, I was, pretty shocked about this when it happened, but that did stick in my mind. And unfortunately, I looked at it as, wow, my psychic knew about this. I should have listened to him. Never did in a million years it crossed my mind that maybe the Lord let me know, and that's why my breasts were hurting, because as soon as I found the tumor, they stopped immediately and they never hurt again. So it was not a cancer pain that was hurting. Cancer doesn't hurt until it's really far gone and wrapped around like organs and bones and eating up the bones and stuff. So this was not cancer hurting, and I knew that, and I didn't know this at the time. I just never, in a million years looked at it as God had just let me know I need to get to the doctor. No, I gave it to the psychic. And I hate myself for that, but it is. Well, I don't literally hate myself, but I hate it that I did that. But I did. So I have a picture. I'm going to show you what I looked like when I first went in for my breast MRI. And don't worry, this is this is good. This is nothing wrong. I don't have anything on this one. I'm actually laying in the MRI machine. I had two friends of mine come with me for support. And we were literally standing on the MRI machine, modeling, being just goofy. And we had everybody in there cracking up. It was really weird, but that's what we did. So I guess it just made things easier. So I'm going to show you the picture real quick. And now remember, I was only 41 when this picture was done. And so, I'm aged a little bit. Plus, I've had some other things happen. At the time, I did have a lot longer hair, but after chemo and I lost my hair, I never grew it back long again because I didn't want to deal with that, losing it again. So I never did. But this was my first diagnosis. We already knew at this point that I had breast cancer. And what they were checking was to make sure it wasn't in both breasts, to make sure there was no additional tumors. So that's what we're doing in this picture. So I'm going to take that one off and come back. Okay, so after this picture, this was in May of 2009. Okay, so we finally got all the information, how the testing done, went and saw the surgeon, and he said to me, listen, I just want you to know that we don't believe there's been any kind of a spread. We think we've caught this early, so we think a lumpectomy will be fine. You don't need a mastectomy. And he said, but I'm also, because you're considered young in the cancer world, I'm going to give you, I'm going to recommend you do radiation. And he said, so just know that that's what I'm going to recommend. And I was like, ugh, okay. Well, I didn't know anything about breast cancer. Nothing. Like I said, other than my mom, no one in our family had ever had these issues. So, and then it was still kind of new with my mom, so it was just really weird. I just didn't understand. It was like someone was speaking a foreign language to me. And, so we went in and we did the lumpectomy, and they took out 5 of my lymph nodes and they tested them, and I did not have a spread. So they diagnosed me stage 1A, which in the cancer world, that's pretty darn good. And so they diagnosed me the stage 1A. So then they sent my paperwork over to a chemo oncologist. This was the surgeon. He sent it to the chemo oncologist because they want you to do chemo first, then radiation second. And they wanted the chemo oncologist to review it and see if he felt like I needed to do chemo. And I'm like, well, I don't have a spread. Why do I need to do chemo? I didn't know. And so anyway, they did, and they sent it over to the chemo oncologist, and he reviewed it. and did a test on it. I did a test on my tumor, and it was on the tumor, and it was called an OncoDX test. And what that does is it tested you for more than just that BRCA1 and 2 gene that you hear about. And I test negative for BRCA1 and 2, as does my sister and my niece and everybody. We all test negative for that gene. But there's still hundreds of other genes out there. So they sent the tumor in to be tested for that. And it came back that if all I did was a lumpectomy and nothing else, no radiation, no chemo, no follow-up with medication, nothing like that, that I had a 26% chance that the cancer would return. So the chemo oncologist said, because of your age, I highly recommend we do 8 rounds of IV chemo. You'll go completely bald, you'll lose all your hair, all that fun stuff. So he said, I highly recommend it. He said, if you'll do this, and then we follow it up with 33 rounds of radiation, he said, I'm going to consider you cured because we've caught this so early. And so I was, again, I'm seeing a psychic. I'm not with the Lord. I'm not praying. I'm not asking God his opinion. I'm just, okay, whatever, let's go do it. So that's where my hair went. I lost the hair because of the chemo. And so we went in, we did the chemo. Wasn't too bad. I continued working both my jobs. Wasn't too bad, wasn't sick, but you take a ton of drugs, ton of steroids. And so you get fat and you gain a ton of weight and you go bald headed. I used to joke that I look like a fat Martian because I didn't have any hair, no eyebrows, nothing. And then I had put on like a ton of weight. So yeah, I've always called myself the fat Martian. I know that wasn't nice, but that's just who I am. I always joke my way through things. It makes it easier, right? For me, it does anyway. So that's what it was. We did that and finished up with the chemo, finished up with the radiation. And I'm going to tell you, in my in my 6th chemo, when I was having my 6th chemo, okay, so with my 6th chemo, I was sitting in there, and it took about 4 to 5 hours to get the chemo. And you just lay there, with the IV, and you just sit there. Well, they have TV. In this place where I went to get chemo, we had separate rooms, and they had TVs in each room. And they had little shows playing or whatever, but on the commercial breaks, it was always medical stuff. And so I'm watching the TV while I'm getting this chemo, and it's interesting too, because one of the chemos that I got was called andromycin, and it is nicknamed the Red Devil because it is pure red. And so, yeah, it was nicknamed the Red Devil. So anyway, I'm watching my TV, and I see this commercial come on about having a hysterectomy. And I'm like, I hear like this, I literally hear like this voice tell me, you need a hysterectomy. Go see a doctor. You need a hysterectomy. And I was like, nope, not doing that. Nope. I'm doing this chemo, this radiation. I'm moving on with my life. I am not getting another surgery. Nope, nope, nope. So I completely shut that down. Going for my 7th chemo. Yep, happens again. Same video. So I'm still not happening. Nope, nope, nope. Not doing it. So my 8th chemo comes along. My 8th and last chemo. Finally going to be done. That commercial comes on. But this time, between the 7th and 8th chemo, all I keep hearing is, get a hysterectomy, get a hysterectomy, get a hysterectomy. And I'm like, nope, 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 not doing it. I was defiant, not a chance. So when I talked to the chemo oncologist about it, I said, look, my mom died of ovarian cancer. I've now had breast cancer. Should I have a total hysterectomy and get rid of my ovaries to stop some of this estrogen production? Because the type of cancer that I had was estrogen progesterone positive, which means that's what caused it. And he's like, no, that's not going to do any good. No, don't do that. Don't do that. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that answer. So I went with it. That little voice did not stop bugging me. And I'll be honest, at the time, I'm seeing a psychic. I'm not in the word. I'm not in a relationship with Christ. But apparently now I realize I'm still hearing from the Holy Spirit, but I wasn't understanding that that's what I was hearing. Because I did not, and I never knew about Holy Spirit. I never learned about that stuff. So, and not stuff, him. I never learned about it. So I, just thought, nah, you're just being paranoid. No, no, no. Doctor said you don't need it, so let's move on. Well, it didn't leave me. So I finally went and saw my what is that? GYN. I went and saw her, and I told her, I said, look, this is what's going on. I just feel like I need to get it. And she's like, well, I think you should too. And so she agreed with me. But unfortunately, because I'd had 2 C-sections, I did not qualify for the laparoscopy. So I was going to have a total incision, full blown, 6, 8 weeks out of work. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm a single mom. I still have a 16-year-old at home I'm supporting. I cannot miss that much time from work. So I knew me, and when I had my C-sections, I went back to work after 4 weeks. And so in my mind, I'm like, let's go back to work after 2 weeks. I just won't tell the doctor. And that's exactly what I would have done. So I just said, okay, well, let's just go ahead and get me scheduled. So she did. She got me scheduled. And in the meantime, it took like 2 months to get it scheduled. You gotta go through insurance, all that junk. So in the meantime, they got me scheduled. They were getting me scheduled, but I was serving on the board of directors for one of the hospitals that's in our area. And we were having a health fair. And so I was there working the health fair. And all of a sudden, I see this little lady just walk by, pushing this big old machine. She was cute as pie, just pushing this big old machine. And I'm like, what in the world is that machine? And she's like, oh, that's the Da Vinci robot. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, what is that? And she said, it does hysterectomies. And I was like, oh, well, I don't qualify because they already told me I had to have a total incision. And I told her what was kind of going on in my medical history and all that stuff. And she said, just because you didn't qualify for laparoscopy does not mean you will not qualify for Da Vinci robot. The downtime is 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And if, regular sit down type job, you just go right back to work. You're fine. And you're up and walking and because it's so much less invasive. And I'm like, okay. So I made an appointment with her, and what it is they put their hands in this machine, and that's how they do your hysterectomy, with a machine, and it's like 3 or 4D or something. So anyway, I qualified for it. So that's what I ended up getting, was that particular one. So 2 weeks later, I'm back at work legally. And I'll go ahead and show you a picture of what I look like bald-headed. Honestly, it is the only picture I have. And you totally can't see because I have a hat on, but it's the only picture I have. So, because I did not like being bald. So hold on one second and I'll throw that up. All right, so that is me bald-headed. Eyebrows drawn in, eyelashes glued on, that type of thing. So that was me getting ready to go to work. So that was probably in 2010, no, 2009, 2009, probably on the end of 2009, because I was doing my chemo. So anyway, my hair did grow back, and when it did, it came back curly, but it straightened back up just like it was. So, okay, so I go in, get the hysterectomy, and this isn't by now, we've hit 2010. I go in and get the hysterectomy, get that over with. 2 weeks later, I go in for my post-op, and my OBGYN or my GYN says, she walked in the door and she says, how did you know? And I was like, how did I know what? And she says, how did you know that you absolutely needed this hysterectomy? And I told her, I said, I told you, I just kept hearing something say, my voice telling me, go get a hysterectomy, go get a hysterectomy. Well, non-Christians are going to look at you like you're hearing voices, not Holy Spirit, but other voices. But she went with it, and she's like, well, whatever happened, she said it was incredibly awesome that it happened. She said, because I got your pathology report back, both your ovaries, had tumors inside of them. One was 2.5 centimeters. One was 1.5 centimeters. Because they were inside the ovaries, the ultrasound did not pick it up. So she said they were benign, but one or two things would have probably happened. They would have grown and burst her ovaries, or they would have turned cancerous. They were the exact same type of tumors that my mom had. So apparently God wanted me still here, right? I still didn't see it though. I still didn't see it. In a way, I kind of was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I wonder what that was all about, but I still did not comprehend. So we did that, we got all that through, and then I had to start taking a medication called tamoxifen, which blocks all your estrogen. Estrogen lubricates your joints. So what happens? Your joints hurt. You feel like a tin man. And so, when you get up, you're just like, oh, like the tin man, because your joints hurt so bad because estrogen lubricates joints and nothing's getting lubricated with your estrogen being blocked. So anyway, I'm done. I'm ready to go. Move on. And this is 2010, then we go to 2011, we go to 2012, everything's good, 13's good. And then we hit 2014. And in 2014, I was getting out of the shower and I was drying my face. And I felt just this tiny, tiny piece of numbness right here, like when you go to the dentist. And I was like, that's weird. Didn't think a whole lot of it, but it was one of those, okay, let me put this in the back of my mind, type scenarios. So I just kind of made a mental note of it. Well, as days go on and weeks go on, it gets worse and worse. And then it gets all up here and in my lips and my tongue. Everything is just numb, like when you go to the dentist and get numbed up for a what do you call it? A dental procedure. So anyway, that's what happened. And so I called my oncologist, and at the time I did not have a very good oncologist staff. Oncologist herself I loved, but the staff was horrible and could not get them to call me back, couldn't get them to call me back. So I finally just took it upon myself and I started going to doctors, and I didn't have a clue. I never thought to go to a dentist, but I didn't. I went to an ENT. I went to a neurologist. I went to the hospital, because by the time I went to the hospital, I was drooling. I couldn't keep the saliva in. And I didn't know what else to do because doctors were not listening to me. The ENT just kind of brushed me off. The neurologist said I had a sinus infection and it was causing this to become numb. So he put me on antibiotics for a month. Of course, nothing happened. So then he put me on antibiotics that you actually have with a nebulizer, and they go and you put that nebulizer up your nose, and that was gross. But we did, so we did that, and of course nothing happened. And he just kept saying, you have a sinus infection, you have a sinus infection. And I'm like, something's not right. Why is an antibiotic not working? This something should be happening. I can't feel my face. And so anyway, he goes in, and at this point, I'm having a lot of pain in my shoulders. And I'm like, is this connected? I don't know. So go see a surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon who does some MRIs on me. And I had rotator cuff tendonitis, so injections and all that was fine, which is common to get a lot of inflammation when you have active cancer. Okay, so when I was talking to him, I just decided, I'm going to ask him this question. I said, is there any way that this is related to this? Because could this be causing my shoulder to hurt like it did? Because this one hurt a little, but this one hurt a lot. And he's like, no, there's nothing connecting you. What are you talking about? I said, well, I can't feel my whole side, this whole area of my face. And he's like, well, did you say something to your oncologist? I said, yeah, they won't call me back. And he said, well, time for a new oncologist. I said, yeah, great. And he said, we'll send you for a bone scan. Have you ever had a bone scan? And I was like, no, I've never had one. He said, wait a minute, you've had cancer you were diagnosed with cancer like 4 years ago and you hadn't been scanned since? I'm like, no, I was diagnosed stage 1A. They told me that I would be considered cured, not healed, but cured. Only God heals. I would be cured. So they never do it. And he said, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that. So he sent me for a bone scan. And sure enough, it came back with a tumor inside of my mandible. So, okay, so I schedule myself, because I'm still not hearing from that oncologist, and I schedule myself to go see an orthopedic a dental surgeon, and to get a biopsy done. And so I went in, and thank goodness I had a dental surgeon that was very compassionate, and he went in and he's like, your back teeth are loose. He said that, and I had perfect teeth. Never had any issues. I mean, never had braces, none of that. And he's like, you got two teeth. I mean, literally could just be almost popped out. He said, in fact, let's get you scheduled and get those out. And I'm like, because I used to have dreams, I had dreams for years that my teeth would fall out and I'd put them back in with super glue. I don't know. But I did. I had them for years. And so all of a sudden that dream's turned into a nightmare. I'm going to be losing two teeth, And he's like, no, we got to get them out. I don't want them to fall out while you're sleeping. And then, you end up swallowing them and choking. He said, we got to get them out. And so he got me scheduled real quick for that. And in the meantime, he goes in and he does the bone biopsy in my jaw. And he sends it off. He said, all right, come back and see me in a week. So I went back in a week and we did the teeth extraction, but we also got the results of my biopsy, which was breast cancer. Yes, breast cancer has spread from my right breast to my left mandible. Nowhere else. Bone scan did not show anywhere else. Well, finally, when I called my oncologist again and said, okay, now I've got a positive biopsy. Think you guys could work with me a little bit? And they got on it then and called me back, got me set up for a PET scan. Nothing showed up except that. So there was no other spread except to the mandible. Well, my oncologist is like, that's not possible. Nobody has breast cancer spread to the mandible. That's not possible. And even if it did go to the mandible, it's usually in another spot. It don't just go to the mandible. That's not common. She said, I'm getting that biopsy reran. So she had the biopsy reran. It came back breast cancer. So yes, it is possible. It did happen. Only me. My mom gets ovarian cancer, don't have ovaries. I get breast cancer to the mandible. That never happens except to me. So, but I think more people have had it happen since then. But at that time, it just never happened. So anyway, so she says, brings me in and she's like, okay, look, it's nowhere else in your body. I don't think we should do chemo. I think we should do direct radiation to your jaw. I was like, okay. So I went and I met a radiation oncologist. And she said, okay, what we're going to do is I think I can get this with 20 rounds of radiation to your jaw, but we're going to do it in 10 rounds. She said, we're going to do very high doses so we can knock it out quick before it does any other damage. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know nothing. Well, most people who get radiation to the jaw get a feeding tube, because what happens is you see people with radiation, and they're burned. Well, when I had the radiation, the 33 rounds to my breast, I was fried up like a lobster. I mean, burned everywhere. Well, when you get it to the jaw, that doesn't necessarily happen because those chemical burns go inside your mouth. So that's why you end up getting a feeding tube. But since she was doing 20 rounds in 10, she said, I don't think you'll need a feeding tube. I was like, good. And so I didn't have to have one, but just envision one whole ulcer on your tongue, your jaws, your lips, everywhere. I mean, it's just one big ulcer. So, that's what happened. Well, I started healing up really quick. And unfortunately I got, what is that? When you get a yeast infection on your tongue, thrush, and that thrush covered the chemical burns. So the pain became really bad. And, it wouldn't heal. So we had to take care of the thrust first and then heal the burns. And so it took a lot longer than we anticipated. So all I could do was drink basically water out of a straw, and some greens. I drank greens, things trying to give me some, some stuff, some nutrients, and I drank protein drinks and that kind of thing, just trying to keep myself with nutrients, because at this point there was no sense in getting a feeding tube. Anyway, got through it, and they usually wait about 3 or 4 months before they do a follow-up scan, because there's so much inflammation from the radiation. So you just assume everything's okay, because there's really nothing else you can do. And so 4 months later, 3.5, 4 months later, I went in and had a MRI done, and it came back good, but it still showed that it lit up, which when you have a light up, that a lot of times is, especially with a PET scan or a bone scan, that's a lot of times showing there's a tumor or cancer active. And it did light up some, but very little. And so we pretty much figured that was inflammation. So we scheduled another one, and 3 months later went in, and this time I had a clear scan. So this is, if I haven't said, this is in July 2014. So again, at this point, I decided, you know what? This is God. I got to get back in church. I got to fix myself. I've got to do something. Didn't mean I was going to stop seeing psychic. I just wanted to go see. I just wanted to get back in church. I wanted to start teaching Bible studies. There were so many things I wanted to do. And I was just, on fire. I wanted to give my testimony. I wanted to tell people. And I went to the church that I was going to years past, and after a couple months ago, and I told him, I said, I really want to teach a Bible study, a woman's Bible study. I said, I'm not going to write it. I just want to teach one. I want to be like a facilitator. I just really feel like I need to get my story out there. I need to help others, And what was interesting is when I was going to this church before I got involved with the psychic, I was teaching all their kids in Sunday school, because I had gone through a period when my kids were younger that we did go to church. And I was teaching all these pastors' kids in Sunday school, and that was all fine. But when I came back, I wasn't okay to teach adult women. No, I just wasn't the person. So I got my feelings got hurt, and I was like, well, then I guess I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be in church. And so that just put me right back into a downward spiral. Back with the psychic, I was drinking a lot. We were going to the bars and partying and just, having a good time. I wasn't hurting anybody. I wasn't doing anything like that. I just was having a good time with friends, and that's what we did. And I guess, partying and our, what do you call it? Our upsetness away. Just drinking, upsetness, partying, whatever, our sadness away. Because I felt like I got, that I had heard from God through all this. And now I'm like, well, I guess I didn't then, because I can't even teach a Bible study. My goodness, I'm volunteering my time and I'm not okay, So these were my thoughts, So anyway, we just kept on seeing the psychic, and more and more things started happening. I started doing more things with the psychic, things that were called like the kits. No, I did not put curses on anybody, nor did he ever offer to. But they were supposed to be like to help, people to recognize me more in my career and things like that. It was just stupid. But anyway, so we started doing things like that, and I really got way more involved and really started becoming just incredibly close friends with this, with James, the psychic. So that's pretty much what I did from about 2014. And my next door neighbor had a Ouija board. I had never played with a Ouija board, ever. I was raised, don't touch a Ouija board, don't look at a Ouija board, don't mess with a Ouija board, but never really explained why. I never researched it either, so it's my fault. And and she had a Ouija board. So we were having, me and her, just a little girls' night. I had gotten with my husband at that point, and he drives a truck. So he was out of town driving. So he was always gone on Friday nights. And so her and I said, hey, let's start having girls' night. We'll watch the movies together, have some wine, whatever. And so we did, and it was great. We had a great time. And interestingly enough, she was a Christian woman, but she wasn't really involved in church at that time either. She had kind of stepped back too. So she's like, I have this Ouija board. And I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, it's no big deal. It's just a game. She goes, you want to play with it? And I was like, I don't even have a clue how to use it. And she's like, well, come on, we'll play with it and see what happens. So she pulls the Ouija board out and we start playing with it. And I kid you not, that little thing that's you put your fingers on and it takes you to the letters. Oh, it really does move on its own. And and all it did was got me more excited. I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. So we started asking questions and started asking like, I had a couple of friends I had a friend pass away. He was killed in a car accident. And I asked if that personal friend was there, and if he was, would he come forward? Well, I did not know that these were demons, and y'all shield yourself as I'm talking about this stuff. And so I didn't know. I just, thought they really came through. And of course, now I know that's insane. My goodness, why would you? If you're living with Christ, why in the world would you come back to a Ouija board? Anyway, that was just my mindset at the time. So, we're playing with this Ouija board, and I don't know how this turned into my cult life with my breast cancer life, but I guess Holy Spirit wants it. So we start playing with this Ouija board, and I do ask my friend to come forward, and my friend comes forward and I ask a few questions, and then I asked him, "Where are you?" And he spelled out HELL. Didn't expect that one. Well, kind of did, but I didn't expect him to answer that. And I asked him, I said, is it safe for us to be talking to you? And that little thing automatically went to no, and it shut off. So I was like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. Well, anyway, we kept playing with it and put it up, went our separate ways, went home, went to bed. The next Friday night, we pulled it out again. And we did it again, and we ended up doing it. Honestly, I had to get reminded by her, but we ended up doing it 3 times. And on the 3rd time, we asked it, is there anyone out there who wants to come forward and chat with us? What are we doing? I don't know. But anyway, would anyone like to come chat with us? And yeah, someone came through, and we asked his name. And he spelled out his name, and I'm not even going to say what it is, because to be honest with you, I don't remember, and I'm happy I don't remember. I don't want to know. And we asked his name, and so I immediately, and I said, we asked him when he passed away, and he gave us the date. Well, I immediately went to Google and pulled that up. Yeah, there was his obituary, and it did. We still just kept playing with the stupid thing. And well, that night I went home, went to bed, and got up the next morning, and I started seeing like something on the side, like a dark shadow. And I'd turn and it'd be gone. But I was seeing like this dark shadow, and it's like, what's that? What was that? And you just kind of put things off. And then this was a Saturday, and then on Sunday I continued seeing that dark shadow. Well, then on my little doggy's outside playing. And then with her daddy, I went outside. And then, and by the way, my chemo meds make my mental clarity not the best always. So sometimes my mind wanders, and I apologize for that. But anyway, so this is on Monday morning. I get up to go to work, and I'm feeling that evil presence really bad, and I'm kind of just like, no, you're just seeing things. And I went outside, got in my car, and as I'm pulling down my driveway, I look up and I see a girl in like a 1800s type outfit, not fancy or anything, just a bluish color, brown hair, I still remember. And she's carrying a bouquet of flowers to my house. And I looked and I was like, oh, she's bringing me flowers. Well, she was gone. It was gone. That went away. So I was like, what? And I just kind of blew that off again, and these things are new to me, and I didn't ever know what was going on. I still didn't understand it. So as I get to the bottom of the driveway and I'm getting ready to pull out, I see another girl at my neighbor's mailbox. And she's planting flowers at my neighbor's mailbox. And I'm like, what? Well, she's gone. So I immediately called my neighbor and I said to her, something's wrong. Why am there? We don't, I don't know. Let me call you back. And I called my psychic. Oh my goodness. And I told him what I had done, that we had played with this Ouija board. Well, even as a psychic, he literally blasted me. I mean, just totally fussed me out. And he's like, oh no, you do not touch those things. He says, I'm a psychic and I don't touch them things. That's evil. He's like, when you open and that little thing started moving, that's a portal. And you just let somebody in. He said, that's what you've done. You've let something out. And I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do? And he says, you need to get some oil, like frankincense oil, and you need to go around and I told him about the dark shadows that I was seeing. And I said, so does that mean I'm really seeing these dark shadows? And he says, yes, you absolutely are. I was like, oh, okay. So he tells me to put frankincense oil on the windowsills, open my door, and command these enemies to leave. And I did, and they did. And I didn't tell my husband about it because he would have probably freaked out. He knows now, but he didn't know then because he never would see the psychic. He would not let him read his cards. He wouldn't let him do anything. So I just thought, well, I just won't mention this to him. But he knows now, though, because, he probably would have been like, oh, gosh. And so anyway, it's interesting that my psychic's fussing at me, right? Well, anyway, this is around 2015, 2016, okay, at this point. Well, my husband and I ended up moving. My neighbor, I explained to her what happened and what she needed to do with the Ouija board to get rid of it. Apparently, you bury it all together, and you don't touch it again. Don't ever touch it. Don't. And the interesting thing is when my mom was pregnant with me, and she's the one that told me never touch a Ouija board, but she never really told me exactly why they were bad. Well, kind of find out when she was pregnant with me, she played with the Ouija board at the neighbors, and she asked it, was she having a boy or girl? And it told her a girl, me, and something else, I forget. Oh, they asked who Jesus Christ was, and it got mad, and the board went flying. And so my mom said, don't touch those, don't touch those. But I never really understood why. So apparently she played with one while she was pregnant with me. And that makes me kind of wonder sometimes if that's how I might have gotten sucked into this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to go back to 2016 and I'm getting on with this. 2016, 2017-ish. And my husband, 2016, my husband and I moved. We moved into a different house in a different location. My neighbor ended up starting to date a man who was a Christian, and he started getting her back in church. Thank you, Jesus. And so she's great. And the one thing, though, that we didn't know to do was repent. And, none of that. We didn't know to do that stuff. We just cat told her to get out of our house, and we never touched it again. So anyway, she gets to church, and she and her daughter was best friends with my daughter as well. And so anyway, she ends up going to church and gets back in church, and so she gets right with Lord. And I moved over to our new house with my husband. Well, by this point, my psychic friend started having a lot of heart trouble, and he wasn't able to come down. He lived in Tennessee. We live in Georgia. He wasn't able to come down anymore for the readings. So I was not able to get a reading. Now, during this time, I had even gone to Savannah. A friend of mine had gotten married, and we all went and saw the psychic and got our tarot cards read. And this guy, my psychic friend James, he actually read with regular 50 deck cards. And yes, many things that he will tell you came to pass. It's very easy to get sucked in. So please don't ever think you're doing this in fun, because it's not. It sucks you in. I don't think I would have ever touched a Ouija board if I had not been sucked into this, and also been rejected by my church. I don't think I would have gotten sucked this far into it, but I did. So when I moved here, into the new house in 2016, actually, I think we continued seeing him until 2018. Yes, that's when he actually got sick, because he ultimately passed away in March 2019. So he did pass away, but so yeah, it was probably closer to like 2018 that we continued seeing him. So anyway, my husband and I moved over here, and so we obviously didn't do the Ouija board, didn't do all that. And the card reading got a little less as time went on. And so what did I do? I picked up Wicca. This was probably 2020. No, that's not right. 2018. I picked up Wicca and I started studying Wicca, and I was really studying Wicca. I was actually taking classes. I was literally studying how to become a Christian witch. That doesn't even make sense, but that's what I did. So I never cast spells. I didn't do any of that, but I would do moon water. I would do all these different things, and I was even looking for a covenant in our town, to see if I could get with a coven. Oh my goodness. So anyway, in 2020, so all this went on. I was studying Wicca. I was passing the courses. All this went on, and also went to school to become a health coach in this time frame, and graduated, and did real well in that class. I mean, in that school. It took a year, and I graduated, and I just I don't know. I look back on it now, and they were teaching Reiki, and just so many things that align with Wicca. And so I ended up doing the Wicca, and totally never. I mean, I had all these books in my house. I even had a table set up, I guess an altar, in my living room that had some skull-looking cup things, and it had some incense things in it, and it had sage in it. Sorry if I'm not remembering these names. I think sometimes God's taken it from my memory, but he's let me remember it for this, because I don't need to think about things like that. But anyway, so I even had that in there. Now, I never gotten down in front of it and prayed or anything. I did it because I thought it was pretty. I also had crystals, and I used to carry amethyst crystals in my hand because they would give me peace. So I thought, but I would do that. And I had black salt that we would spread around our cars to keep us safe from anything out there. And so, yeah, we got pretty deep. It's a little scary. Praise God, I got out of it. Oh, I look back on it, I can see the demon all in that now. Well, during this time, yes, I'm seeing things at my house again. Never one-on-one, nothing like that, just in the corner. And so I'm like, what in the world? I'm not playing with the Ouija board. Why is this happening? So anyway, I just keep studying it, and I just finally in 2020, I felt the urge, the call that I needed to start, that if I had time to study Wicca, I had time to at least do a Bible study. And this is when, that thing happened. So we were all at home for a few weeks. And I went through the house and I painted my porches. I did all these things and I ran out of things to do. And I just felt the desire that I needed to do a Bible study. So I ordered a Bible study from Amazon. And it came in and I sat down and started doing it. And I got more interested, more interested, more interested. And just started doing different Bible studies, but I hadn't let the Wicca exactly go yet, but I was still doing some Bible studies. So 2020, and so in October 2020, me and my husband, we go to St. Augustine for 2 weeks. We get a condo in St. Augustine for 2 weeks. And while we were there, I started listening to a lot of videos. I was listening to just different videos. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I know I felt like when that happened in March 2020, that something shifted in the atmosphere. I don't know, but something happened and I wanted to find out what it was. So I'm watching videos, and it's bringing me to people talking about end times and different things like that. And I ultimately found Brenda as well, and I started listening to Brenda. So when we went on this trip, I brought my Bible with me, and I started reading my Bible, and sorry, I thought I heard my husband. So anyway, I started reading my Bible a little more, but mostly with the Bible studies. And the more I did the Bible study, the less I was looking at the Wicca. And the more I was doing the Bible, and it just slowly, well, not really slowly, actually, with it pretty quickly, started pulling me into the Bible more. And then finally, I was like, if I got time to study Wicca, I got time to study the Bible. And so I started studying a little more, and I thank God every day for bringing me back, because I don't know what pothole I would have been down had he not. So anyway, I started listening to different Bible studies and YouTubes, and then unfortunately, I ended up with a lot of these New Agers and false prophets, and started listening. Well, yes and no. I mean, definitely, I was involved with them almost as much as a psychic. That's what it felt like. So it was almost like I went from one extreme to another. And I go in, and I'm really digging what they're saying, so to speak. And about that time, I was like, if I got time to do the Bible study by myself, maybe I should see if some friends want to get on Zoom and do them with me. So I sent an invite out. We had several friends, Flora being one of them. And we started doing some studies together. And we just got closer and closer and closer with the Lord. The one good thing of me listening to these New Agers and some false prophets, was I did learn about repentance through them. I did. I realized, oh my goodness, I need to repent of all these things I've done. Well, it was at the end of 2021 I even realized I needed to do this. So in the meantime, back to the cancer journey. I've had 2 diagnoses so far. The one in 2014, because it had gone to a bone and it was a spread. I was no longer stage 1A. I was now stage 4 terminal. But I continued working both my jobs. And this time I worked my second job to pay for my medical bills. But in 2020, I went for my regular checkup in October 2020. And while we were in Florida, usually at this point in time, I'd get up and walk 3 miles in the morning on the beach, come back, we'd do whatever we wanted to do, and then go walk 3 miles on the beach that night. I was doing water aerobics, step aerobics, cutting the grass, yard work. I was very active. And I mean, it got my stress out. That was I loved working out and stuff. And we were and I just kept falling asleep. I was so sleepy. And I told my husband, I said, this feels like cancer tired. Because when I have had active cancer, my vitamin D bottoms out, and which will cause, fatigue. And I said this, and I had just had it checked in May, and it was really good. Well, this was October, and I told him, I said, this is like a cancer tired. I am so tired, I cannot function. And so when I got back, I had just my regular appointment, and sure enough, scans came back that I had a tumor on my sacrum, one tumor on my sacrum, and one on my right iliac, which is part of your hip. And so I'd had another spread. So breast to jaw, and now back down to my sacrum and iliac. And I apologize. I do have to back up. I missed my 2018 diagnosis. This is what happens when you don't do notes. Okay, so in 2018, I started feeling bone fragments in my jaw. And these bone fragments, at first I thought, okay, after you've had radiation and things, the bone will die, but it does reheal itself. It does rebuild itself, but it's never like it was before, but it does rebuild itself. So I thought, well, maybe my bone's rebuilding itself, and, this is why I'm feeling these fragments. It's old bone. And I'm, actually picking out a couple of them, and I'm thinking maybe that's what it is. Well, I knew I had a doctor's appointment, so I just kind of waited, and I went and saw the doctor, and I told her, I said, I don't know. I said, it just feels weird. So anyway, I had a new oncologist at this point. This is in 2018. And so he sent me for a PET scan. And sure enough, it came back, the sucker lit up like a Christmas tree. So that tumor was back in my jaw. Well, unfortunately, you can only do so much chemo. I mean, so much radiation on your jaw. And unfortunately, I'd already done the max really that I could do for radiation. So the only alternative I had was to remove my mandible. So my doctor referred me to Emory in Atlanta. They're the only ones that do it. I believe there's a hospital in Macon, but this is the only place that does this particular surgery. Now, when I got there, they had never done it for a breast cancer patient. They had done thousands of mandible resections. It's called a mandilectomy or a mandible resection. They had done thousands of them, but with people who just had jaw cancer, which, it wasn't a stage 4 metastatic breast cancer situation. So I was the first one. So they had to get together and see if they would even do it. And so they all got together and they decided, yes, we'll do it. We'll take your mandible out, and hopefully this will be it for you, and we can buy you some more years in your life. So we decided to do it, and we got it set up. Now, how they do this is, when they go in, okay, the surgery takes about 10 and a half hours. And this is why I have a scar on my neck, because what they do is they go in and they cut you from here all the way up to behind your ear. And then this is pulled up to your forehead. And they go in and then they remove the mandible. They leave a little piece here, and then they cut it right here. So they remove this portion of your mandible. And they leave this piece here because what they do to replace it is they put a fibula. They use your fibula, which is the bone in your leg. And that's what I now have in my jaw, is my fibula. I now have a leg bone. I'm all twisted. So I will show you a picture of what I look like prior to going into the hospital. Going into my surgery, and what I look like coming out of the surgery. Okay, so this is me prior to surgery. I know I'm a hot mess because no makeup, all that good fun stuff, and they got me all doped up at this point, but this is me. This is before my surgery. And now I will show you one after my surgery. Yeah, and this is where I kind of warn you that might be a little triggering, because one of the things that you have to have when you have this surgery is you do have to have a trach, because you're so swollen, and you have to have a trach. You also have to have a feeding tube, but you also have 2 or 3 drains in your neck, and then your leg also has 2 or 3 drains. You have about 27 staples, I believe, in your neck, and about the same amount in your leg. So I'm going to show the picture of what I look like after. So just trigger warning. All right. Okay. So this is me. I'd had the 10.5-hour surgery at this point, and this was probably about 3 hours after surgery. So I did actually swell even worse than this. But this was, the swelling that I came out of surgery with. So yeah, I'm pretty swollen. And then this is my leg, where they took out the fibula, and right here is where what they do is when they take out that fibula, they cut your leg, and they open up the leg, and they get the fibula out, but they leave about 2 centimeters at your ankle and 2 centimeters at your knee to help with stability. So they do leave a little bit. And so that's what they did. Now, the round piece that you can see in this picture, hang on, I hope y'all can see that. It said it's shared. Let me try that again, but I'm not seeing it. There it is. Okay, so this little round piece right here that you can see, that is what they do is they pick up that bone, but they also bring out your your arteries, your veins, all that junk comes out with it. Because you got to have it in your mouth so that the bone will work. And so that's what that circle is. That is a piece of skin that they took out of my leg. And now, because when they put the fibula in my mouth, they go in and they take out everything, not just your mandible, but your gums, your teeth, everything comes out. Okay, so there's no gums to cover the fibula. There's no bone. There's nothing to cover that bone. So they take that skin flap and they put that over your bone. And so that is what I have in my mouth now. I have not just my fibula, but I have my leg skin in my mouth. I'm that gross. And then they take a skin graft from the top of your leg and they put it back on that spot of your leg so that it's not wide open. Weird, huh? I know. Who would have ever thought of doing a surgery like this? But they did. So anyway, this was me. And I spent 8 days in the hospital. Got to go home. And after 8 days, after about 5 weeks, I went back to my paralegal job. And then after 7 weeks, I believe, I went back to my Weight Watchers job because I worked at Weight Watchers part-time. And so I went back to that job. And so everything was okay. Well, unfortunately, my leg, the skin graft didn't take. And so it ended up, and I'm not going to show you a picture of this because it is incredibly disgusting, but my leg ended up just opening, and the infection was all the way down into the tibia. So it was nasty. And it took me about 7 months to get that healed again. So I had some pretty bad infection from that. So anyway, but I didn't have a tumor no more. So anyway, so later on, this was in August of 2018 that I had this surgery. And by February 2018, I was finally getting that leg to finally start to heal. It was still an open wound, but it was healing. And I woke up one day and my entire side of my face was just, and what had happened is when they put that fibula in your mouth, they use a titanium cage to hold it in place. And so it appears that the titanium cage that they had used to put my face in my jaw to hold the fibula was contaminated. Somehow, some way, it got dirty. And so my body was rejecting it. And I had pins and screws and all that in my jaw. Well, what was happening was my body was pushing the pins and the screws out. So that was infection. I mean, it was like, bang, like that. So I went to the doctor and I went to the surgeon that did the surgery, but I saw the nurse practitioner. And she said, "Oh, you just got a clogged salivary gland." And I'm like, my neck, I mean, everything. And I'm like, okay, she's a doctor, right? So I went with it and I went home and I started more antibiotics. And within 2 days, I'm like blood red. I mean, that was not a salivary gland. So I ended up pretty bad infection. And so I actually went to the ER at Emory on Sunday because I knew something was wrong. You just don't turn blood red. It's hot as fire. I knew something wasn't right. And I went and I mean, they immediately brought me back and I had staph infection and I was becoming septic and they immediately got me on antibiotics. Well, unfortunately, I had to get that out. And they were not 100% sure if it was caused because it was contaminated or if my body was rejecting titanium in general. So they could not put another titanium cage in there. So what they did was they just recut me, did that again, put me in the surgery, and they got rid of all the infection or as much as they could, and they took out the titanium cage and sewed me back up and left me in the hospital. We were in there, I guess I was in there this time about 4 or 5 days. And unfortunately, because what happens is the mandible and the fibula will fuse together on both parts at some point, but it takes 6 months to a year for that to happen. It had been, at this point, it had been 6 months since my surgery. So my bones had not fused totally together. This one up here was better, but this one right here had not fused all the way. So I was at very big risk of breaking the bone, of that jaw breaking. So I was put on nothing but soft food for the next 6 months. And now this was in February 2019. Okay, so I'm going to show you a picture of what I look like after this surgery. And you have my permission to laugh because it's really bad. I look rough. My daughter looks beautiful though. Okay, so because you can see I got about 25 staples again, and I've got bandages, and I'm swollen and very pale, rough looking. It was a rough surgery. I will not lie on that one. And my daughter brought me a smoothie. So that made everything all better. Because if you've ever had surgery, you know how bad your throat hurts after surgery from those tubes they put down them. So anyway, that was me. So that was in February 2019. And March 17th, tomorrow, my father passed away, 2019. And so we dealt with his funeral and his death. And then it was about a week later that I developed another big, like, swollen thing on my neck. So back to the doctor. That same nurse practitioner that diagnosed me with a swollen salivary gland now says, "Oh, you're fine." And I'm like, no, not this time. And so she got a little aggravated, but she came in and she started doing this. Well, yeah, the infection had gone all down here. So that's very uncommon, and it did. And so they they admitted me back in the hospital for another 4 days and more antibiotics. And this time, yay, I finally got it all gone. And from all those IV antibiotics, my leg was healing even better. So finally things were, coming together, and I finally got through all that. And this was in 2019. Okay, so now we're back to 2020. When we come back from our trip in St. Augustine, I went to my doctor for my regular, just 6-month checkup. And yes, we had 2 new tumors. One was in my sacrum and one was my iliac and my right iliac. So this doctor said, okay, so we're going to put you on some medication that we're going to try this and see if it helps. It's like a chemo pill, but it's a CDK inhibitor, and it's called Ibrance. has the same side effects as chemo or chemo pills. Your white blood cells go down, your neutrophils go down, you platelets, all that stuff. So you have to get your blood work done every single month. So this was in 2020, October 2020. And so I started the medication. And I will tell you, I did try all natural for several years and it didn't work. So this is why I resorted to going back to medication. Now, by this point, I was back in the Word. I was out of Wicca. I was not seeing psychics. And I was in the process of repenting for everything I had ever done. But I hadn't finished it all. And so I had prayed and asked God, please show me what I need to know. Show me what I need to repent of. So I was very, very busy for a while because there was so much that I needed to repent of. But anyway, so this was so 2020, we started the medication and I went back in after 3 months. She wanted me to do it for 3 months. We did some scans and they showed some shrinkage. So we decided to keep me on it. And they took me off. I was on the tamoxifen pill, and then I went on a Remedex pill. Well, they took me off of that one, and then they put me on Aromacin. Now, these are all estrogen blockers. But in addition, they added Zometa, which is an infusion you get for bone hardening because you tend to break your bones, when you have bone cancer. So, which that's what this is now. It's MBC, metastatic breast cancer to the bones, stage 4. It's called terminal. That's the doctors, not my God. My God does not say that, and I don't claim it. I don't even call it my cancer. I say the cancer. So anyway, this was in 2020, 2020. So fast forward 2021, January, I get my scans, get the PET scan. Now, PET scan scans from about your sinuses to your femurs, about your knees, because they check your femurs. Femur is a popular spot for tumors to go with breast cancer. And so they check you there. So it's just a full body. And things were looking better. And this was in January 2021. So we just continued on the meds. And in February 2021, because of the new medication, I was having horrible night sweats. And I had woke up one night and I was just drenched. And I kept a t-shirt beside me and I kept a towel on my pillow because I knew I was doing this at this point because I was adjusting to these meds. So I sat up, changed my shirt, flipped my towel over. And when I bent down to flip my towel over, I hit the back of my head on a headboard. And the last thing I remember was saying, ouch, that hurt. And that's the last thing I remember. And I woke up later. I don't know how long I was out. I don't know anything. Well, when I woke up, I was like, ooh, my head really does hurt. Really, I really snagged it. Didn't realize that something was wrong. I didn't realize it because I put my hand like this. And I just knew it hurt. And I knew I was in that whole week, I was so tired, so tired. All I wanted to do was sleep and nauseous. Oh my goodness, I was nauseous. And so I'm thinking it's the Ibrance because Ibrance those are side effects of Ibrance. So I'm thinking, God, I don't know why I did in the first 2 months, but 3 months, but now I'm just not feeling good. So anyway, I finally started feeling better. And when I started kind of feeling better, I was like, wait a second. And it was like the light bulb turned on because I was feeling better. And I put my hand up here and I literally have a dent in my head. I had cracked my entire skull and there was a dent like this in my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm cracked. I said, oh no, what's going on with my skull? And the first thing that came to my mind was, you got a tumor and it's eating the bone. And my husband's like, no, you hit it. And I'm like, yeah, I did, didn't I? Yeah, I hit it. And so I go to the doctor and she feels it and she's like, when did you do this? And I was like, oh, like 10 days ago. And she's like, oh my gosh, we need to get a scan. I was like, okay. And sure enough, it's completely fractured. It's all broke, but it's 4.5 centimeter tumor. And So it was just so hard for me to understand how in the world could I possibly have hit my head in the exact same spot I had tumor. That how is that possible? That's just not possible. I don't see how that's not possible. So I refused to believe that there was a tumor. Absolutely refused. I was like, nope, nope, there is not a tumor there. You guys are crazy. You're seeing swelling. I hit my head. I cracked my skull. Of course, now if anyone knows, you have to really hit your head hard to crack your skull. It just doesn't break. And so what had happened was ultimately was the tumor ate the bone, and when I hit it, it broke it. So anyway, I ended up getting an appointment with a neurosurgeon, and I had him do a biopsy because I absolutely would not believe that there's just not wasn't possible. And sure enough, came at breast cancer in my skull. So I was like, "Oh, I'll be darned." And it all just came to me at that point. Thank you, Jesus. You have saved my life so many times, so many times. And this is in February 2021. Okay. And I was like, you just have saved my life so many times. Thank you. And I finally realized, oh my goodness, he wants me to do something. And one of the jokes I've always said is if you want me to know something, you got to hit me in the head with a 2x4 because I ain't going to hear it, see it, believe it, or know it because I'm just stubborn and I just, that's just me. You have to hit me with the head 2x4. And God really and truthfully did it because he wanted me to know that tumor was there because they don't scan there. And it needed to be found for that sucker got in my brain. And thank God it did not. It was in the bone. Um, so anyway, because I have reactions to titanium, they cannot put a titanium plate in my skull. So I just have a big dent in my skull now, where it never healed properly. And so after getting in April 2021, after getting that biopsy, I guess he took enough out that when we did the next scan, it showed that it was fine. So I was like, oh, yes, yes. I was so excited. Well, unfortunately, it came back. So in February 2022, I ended up having to do radiation to my skull. And that is why I have uneven hair. Okay. So it's because when they did the radiation on this skull, again, we did 20 rounds of radiation in 10 rounds. We did a turbo boost basically. But it took all this hair, I had like a half a head of hair. And it has taken this long for my hair to grow back. It has taken this long and it is finally down to here now, and I'm finally growing in here. Honestly, we didn't think it was going to come back because of doing chemo first, being on chemo, and then doing shots of radiation that were super strong to my skull. Yeah, we didn't think it was going to come back so that is why I have an uneven hair. And the reason that sometimes I have difficulties getting certain words out, sometimes when I'm trying to say them and I can't get them out, is because even though I've had this surgery, I have no feeling at all on my half of my tongue, the inside of my jaw, and my whole side of my face. A whole side right here. I have no feeling. So when you go to the dentist and you're getting that injection and you know how you feel, that's how I feel 24/7. So, and I don't have any feel in this part of my lip. So when people typically get this surgery, their jaws just hang. I was blessed. I have a lady that's a nurse practitioner that works in a spa, and we figured out a way to do filler in this area, and it helps raise my jaw so that it doesn't just hang, but it still causes problems with speaking certain words, or some words I can't get out. You don't realize how much you use your tongue until you can't use your tongue. You just don't realize it. It's crazy. But yes, and so there are some words, and so sometimes I'll either change the word or I'll just stumble through it and pretend like it didn't happen. But anyway, so I had forgotten to say that, but now back on my skull in 2021. So 2022, February, we did it. and the radiation, and the tumor has been shown. I get MRI of the skull and brain every 4 months, and it's good. It's showing stable. So that was in 2022. And then in let's see, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm just having a brain pause. Okay, so the skull diagnosis was my 5th diagnosis. So I'd had 5 diagnoses at this point, 5 occurrences. So I was a 5-time survivor at that point. And then in 2023, I started feeling something weird in the sacrum area, and it had been stable. It had been doing really well. And so I mentioned it to my oncologist at my monthly visit. And so we scheduled me for an MRI. It took 10 days, to get the appointment and approval and all that fun stuff. And I went in, but by the time I got to go in, the pain was it was ungodly. I kid you not, it was so bad. And I got through the MRI and kind of found out my sacrum was broke. I had another tumor on my sacrum. And so I had 2 tumors now on my sacrum and 1 on the right iliac. Also, 1 showed up on my left iliac, but my chemo oncologist missed it. I questioned it and said, I think it's a tumor there. And she said, no, you're good. I said, okay. But yeah, come to find out she missed it. So anyway, so we're just focused on this is like number 7. I don't remember, 6 or 7 diagnoses. I've had 8 total. And so the sacrum was completely broke, and I had a new tumor. So I had 3 tumors plus the one on the left at that point. The rest of the scan showed good. It didn't have any other new tumors anywhere. So back to the radiation oncologist we go, and I get the radiation. This is in March 2023. And I get the radiation, and within probably, I was on Toradol as well, but because and oxycodone, but and I don't ever take pain meds, ever. Must take Tylenol or ibuprofen, and it was that bad. But once I got a couple rounds of radiation, that started, and then it started getting better. And so I was only in pain really bad for about 2.5, 3 weeks. So once, like I said, I was getting the radiation, it was getting better. And so that happened. And so that was in March 2023. And then October 2023 or September, looked good. Everything looked good. Scan was good. PET scan did not pick up that tumor in my left iliac. So I was like, okay, maybe I misread the MRI wrong because it did not pick it up. So just, kind of forgot about it. And then I started having some really bad pain in my left hip. So I started thinking, maybe that was a tumor, and the pain was all the way from the hip into the groin, into the femur, all the way down into my ankle. And it was also nerve pain, just like constant burning. And so I'm thinking it's that tumor. Maybe it was really there and it just didn't show up on the PET scan, So I said something to my oncologist, and she said, I think that's a labral tear. And I was like, well, sure, of course. And so she gets me with a surgeon, and sure enough, I have a labral tear in my left hip. So we believe what happened was, in addition to this, the first week of October 2023, my sacrum broke again. So I had the sacrum break again, and I had a labral tear. And she believes what happened was probably from the walking, weird. Oh, I broke my foot too in May 2023. So yeah, all the weird walking, she thinks probably caused, the surgeon thinks that's caused some, weakening. And also, the exercise that I used to do, he apparently have a ton of arthritis there. So that caused the labral tear. Well, can't fix it because he said it'll just tear again. The only thing I can do is a total hip replacement. But in the meantime, I had another MRI of that hip, and it did indeed show my left iliac has a tumor. So that one hasn't had anything done to it except for the Ibrance that I take. So that was my 8th diagnosis. I just had that 8th diagnosis just a couple weeks ago. And so we're just watching it right now. And I have PET scan and MRI scheduled for this coming Thursday to see what's going on. And I feel fine other than the my hip, the labral tear, sucker hurts. But they do put me on some medicine, so it's helping a lot. I'm sick of taking drugs, but I thank Jesus every day because I do believe in the power of healing. And I also believe that he does give us things to help us. Not, I do believe in, having the faith that he will heal you. I do. I totally believe that. I'm a 15-year cancer survivor this May. Okay, yes, I've had to have things done, but he's given us the knowledge and the understanding, and I'm still here. And he's pulled me from Wicca. He's pulled me from where I could have gone so much worse. He's pulled me from psychics. He has helped me repent and redeem myself and come to him. And I officially accepted him as my Savior February 21st, 2021. And that was my true salvation. I don't think when I was 12 years old and got saved at that point, became a believer, that I really did. I just don't think I did because I never did anything with it. I never studied. I never did anything. Just, went through the motions. And so I never did. And I thank him every day for saving my life because, first off, just a concussion on your on your skull, that could have been bad, worse. That could have, I had tumors in my ovaries. I had so many things that should have killed me, and they didn't. And I'm still here. I'm still healthy. And now I get to meet all you guys. And I am so blessed in my prayers. I make it to the rapture. I pray I do. But even if I don't, I pray, pray that God will use me for his glory and to reach others. And I know this was a long story, and I apologize for it being so long, but I have the gift of gab. I talk, my mind wanders, and I didn't write myself notes. I'm an organized person. So the fact that I got on here and didn't write myself notes is a miracle. I'm sure I forgot something, but I've had, a total of 8 diagnoses. So I've had someone look me in the face 8 times, you have cancer. And I rebuke it every time. I rebuke a scan. I rebuke it all. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. That's coming from Satan. That does not come from my God. My God does not put diseases on people. My God heals. And that is what we need to all remember. Our God heals us. He does not put diseases on us. If you've got sin in your life, you've got things you hadn't repented of, I highly recommend doing that. I highly recommend it. We don't want to go in the rapture, and we don't want to go in our death. We're not promised tomorrow. And we do not want to go with unrepented sin. We want to look at Jesus in the face, and he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done. Oh my gosh, I'm like getting heebie-jeebie Holy Spirit moments because I'm so thankful because of how far I could have gone the other way and how far I was going the other way. I mean, psychics, Ouija boards, Wicca. Just all of it. And now I'm nothing but Jesus, Jesus, Jesus all day long. He's my buddy, my friend, my companions, the Holy Spirit, God. They're all my buddies. I say good morning and good night to them every night. They are my buddies, and I am so thankful. And I don't know what my future holds, but I know who holds my future. And I'm okay with that. Yes, I do want to make it to the rapture because I think that would be super cool. But, the biggest thing, so if you're suffering from any kind of disease, the biggest thing that you can ever remember is we're all dying. Every single one of us are dying. Just because you get a cancer diagnosis or maybe something else, okay, you got a disease. Let's work with it. Let's fix it. Let's pray about it. Let's give it to God, because guess what? It's not your disease. You're giving it to him. Once you give it to him, he's the one that's going to take care of that problem, not you. You don't got to worry about it. It's like my scan's coming up Thursday. I'll just, all right, gotta deal with this. I ain't got time. I got studies to write and videos to do. I don't have time to deal with all this nonsense. So do me a favor and take care of it for me, please. And he does, and he will. And everything's going to be fine, you know? So I do take Aberrants every day still. Been on them 40, I just started my 43rd month, I believe, on them. I also believe, yes, I know we talk about pharmacia, and nobody even needs to send me anything on that because I know all about it. But I also believe that he does give us things to help. And that's my, and I did go the natural way, and I had 3 diagnoses during the natural way. So I've decided to use it this way. I feel like this is what God has told me to do. So, and I feel pretty good 99% of the time. I mean, really do. I do have some days that I'm really tired, but most days I feel really good. In fact, I was out doing yard work and I've been painting my kitchen cabinets. So you can keep on living. Everyone is dying. Don't let someone tell you, oh, you've got this disease. It's going to kill you. I know only God knows that, not you, buddy. And I rebuke it. I rebuke it in the name of Jesus. By his stripes, I am healed, and by his blood, I am healed. Okay. And I just wanted to say this, and I hope this does something for someone, gives someone, some encouragement and understanding, yeah, I got to live with all these scars, and I got to live with not feeling my face, and I got a crack in my head, and I got an ugly scar on my leg, and I have my leg in my mouth. That is just weird to me. But anyway, I don't have my leg. I have my leg skin in my mouth. But anyway, I do. But it's okay because I'm still here. Right? Okay. So stay under the blood. Believe. Have faith. Okay. Anyone, don't accept what someone tells you. Just because, don't accept what the doctor tells you. Yes, they're there for a reason. Don't quit going to them. They're there for a reason, but that doesn't mean you got to accept the diagnosis. Okay. You'll be okay. Just give it to God. Yep. All right. So I'm done yakking. I appreciate y'all listening, and I apologize for it being long, but that is me. Plus, I had 8 diagnoses to go through, and I had no intention of talking about my cult stuff, but it happened. I guess it needed to happen. Now I don't have to do another video. Love you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.